Everybody's trying to figure out artificial intelligence. Hey, this is Paul, president and founder of Giant Jaxx Media. Welcome to this episode of Giant TV. Really fired up for my guests. I've got Ross Hartmann, who is the founder of Kiingo AI, all about artificial intelligence, how businesses are using it. I've got Brant, who's an incredibly successful Vistage chair out of Houston, Texas. We get together for a deep dive on AI, what Brant is seeing in his group of CEOs, what they're talking about, and Ross gets into the weeds on AI. You're gonna love it. Let's go jump in. Hi everybody, this is Paul Hitchcock. Welcome to Giant TV. I'm the founder and president of Giant Jaxx Media. We're helping others to grow and nurture their businesses. Very excited to have my two guests on here today. Brant, who's a Vistage chair in Houston, Texas. Welcome, Brant.
Hey, good to see you again, Paul.
Yeah, and I have Ross Hartmann, who is the founder of Kiingo AI. It's all about artificial intelligence, and he's helping businesses to understand how to use it. Welcome, Ross.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and Ross is also a top Vistage speaker. We were just talking about that. So very hot topic, of course. Everybody's trying to figure this out. Brant, I want to start with you and hear a little bit about your Vistage practice. What are you doing there, and how is AI coming up?
Sure. Well, I have one Vistage group we call the North Side Vistage CEO group. It's on the north side of Houston. We've got 15 members in the group, and AI is a topic at almost every meeting. And our members they're struggling to understand it, and they're at various levels, I guess you would say. Some use it quite a bit, and others are afraid of it. And so anyway, it's a topic. We've been trying to get a speaker on that. The speakers are all really booked right now. It's so hot. We do have one coming up in December on the topic. But we learn a lot from each other. I mean, our knowledge overall is increasing a lot. So it'd be really interesting to see how that session goes in December.
Yeah, and Brent, are they trying to figure out what it is, or they're using it and they're trying to figure out how to go deeper with it?
Yeah, well, some are using it and want to go deeper, and they use it for probably relatively simple things like a job description. They're looking for something, they may ask for a job description, and so they'll get a generic job description. But it's amazing how accurate and on point a lot of this stuff comes back to them.
And tell us a little bit about your Vistage practice there, Brant. What type of industries are you focused on there? Who are you working with? I know you're trying to fill a few seats over time. Who are you looking for?
Yeah, well, we've currently got one seat open. We've got 15 members in the group, and we're just looking for a decision maker that runs a company. Generally, our sweet spot's between 10 and 100 million, but and it's really individuals join the group, not the company. So, I have one that's a pre-revenue, but he's an experienced CEO and brings a lot to the group. And then we have a company that's a manufacturer of 200 million. We have all different types of companies. We have several in the construction industry, oil field, pipeline, aerospace, printing. So, the more diverse views that we can get from different perspectives, the better overall experience it is. So, yeah, it turns out we don't really have a lot of technology. So that would probably help if we had somebody that understood a little more about cybersecurity or AI. But it's a good, strong group that we learn an awful lot from each other.
Yeah, and you're doing great things there. I mean, you're having your one-to-ones with members, and you're meeting monthly. The CEOs are getting together. So highly collaborative is what I've heard from you.
And we are experimenting with something a little different. We're putting together subgroups during the month for a half day or so, where I will meet with 3 or 4 members, and we get a lot deeper, and we spend a half day together, and we really are getting to know each other's business well by doing that. So,
oh, nice. Well, Ross, let's jump over to you, and love to hear kind of your thoughts on how businesses are looking at AI. What is it? And get into the weeds a little bit on it.
Yeah, I mean, Brent was talking about folks maybe are using this, but they want to go deeper, and maybe they're not entirely sure how. I do find this pretty often that some companies basically say, we like the idea of AI, we think it's interesting, but we're not exactly sure how to use it. And I think that's almost approaching it as a solution in search of a problem. And, businesses always have problems, right? Every day. So what we can do is we can start with a problem and say, where are you in pain, essentially? What's taking too long? Where's the quality not high enough? And then we can take AI and essentially apply it to those areas. So it does require a bit of self-reflection and breaking down your business and looking at the processes, but consider where you're having issues. And as long as it's, knowledge work related, chances are AI can assist you there. Now, the amazing thing about this latest wave of AI, because AI has been around a long time, since the 40s to 50s. But the latest wave, what it really does is it makes AI accessible. Previously, you had to have a machine learning, team and data scientists. You kind of had this almost black box of data in your company that you really had to get those engineers in there to pull it out. But now AI allows us to extract data insights from our data, to generate reports automatically. The AI can query our software, it can query our databases. And it can generate narratives and explanations from the data that it generates. So, zooming back here a second, I guess AI is really just getting computers or machines to accomplish human level tasks or things that would normally require human level intelligence. But it's that's really theoretical and broad. What it really does for us is it allows us to easily interact with data. I think so. It allows us to pull out data insights. It allows us to create data in an easy way. And I mean, Brant, you were talking about, you got a construction company, and I think that's pretty par for the course for a Vistage group. And there's bidding and estimation, and part of that can be done by AI. So there's a lot of opportunities in each industry.
Well, it's interesting. Only yesterday, I stumbled across an AI person he's IT and he's sales oriented, and we were just getting to know each other. And he was talking about using AI for the sales process for lead generation was one of it, based upon your customers, that AI could tell you who in the area has a need right now, as well as forecast who has going to have a need in the near future. And then he was talking about, putting that strategy in, integrating it with your CRM, and getting back, analysis coming out of that. And I was trying to figure out, okay, who among my members might this make sense? And I picked out somebody who's in the concrete sawing and drilling business. I mean, that's construction. And they have a fairly sophisticated system. They do, and you mentioned knowledge work. Well, that's not knowledge, that's hands-on. But his estimating and his salespeople are knowledge work. And I mean, he jumped all over it and said, yes, I would like very much to get involved with this. So we're looking to do that and if we find a fit there, then we can use that as a case study for the rest of the group. And that way really get our hands into something that, how do you use this in a real life situation?
I love that. I mean, I think those examples are just spot on. So, like you're saying, in a sales context, there's some really interesting opportunities. There's lead, generation or lead filtering, obviously, and that's valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when you're getting to those later stages where you're actually on the phone with a prospect, let's say that the prospect is objecting to whatever the sales process is. You can have the AI transcribe the call in real time, take the objection, go to your sort of AI brain and pull the response back and put that on the screen for the sales rep to see. And then also suggest, have recommendations essentially for how to increase the average order size, how to cross-sell, how to upsell, those sorts of things. And then, once you do get these folks in your CRM and you're moving far along the process, you can customize content to individual companies. So you don't send out one newsletter to 5,000 folks. You send out individual newsletters based on your history with them. And then I guess additionally, I'll say you can have the AI analyze your relationship with companies and essentially say, how can we improve our process or our product? What are people upset about? What are people not enjoying? So just so much opportunity. And that's just sales. Every single department can benefit from this stuff. It really is incredible.
So some of our members are concerned though about the AI kind of getting their own information, and now it's available to the public or Google or whatever. And what should they be concerned about there?
Yeah, I mean, data privacy and security is obviously a huge element of AI, and folks are rightfully concerned. But part of the challenge here is, well, we have to think about what the possible kind of attack vectors are. So there's a thing called a model inversion attack. And what that means is essentially that if you train, let's say OpenAI, I'm sorry, she just cut it off again. I'm going to restart that. Hope we can edit that. Okay, one more time. So when it comes to data privacy and security, obviously that's a huge concern, and understandably so. There's a couple different elements to this. And one is that OpenAI by default trains on your data. So OpenAI, they're the creator of ChatGPT. If you're using that, by default, they train on your data. So you have to go into your settings and you have to turn off the training switch. And when you turn that off, that means you're safe to share proprietary confidential information. If you have that on though, what happens is, let's say you're using GPT-4, you put your data in and it's essentially used to train GPT-5. And what that does is it opens you up to what's called a model inversion attack. And a model inversion attack is where a company using GPT-5 in the future could sort of poke and prod the model and extract proprietary data that you put into GPT-4. And so it is a concern. It's a totally valid concern that your data could get in there in a way where another company could extract it. Now, on top of that, there's just the standard cybersecurity, right? You want to make sure that nobody's going to be intercepting your communications now or today, right? So it's absolutely a concern. And with AI, because AI makes our data more actionable than ever, it's something that has to be top of mind.
Okay, so I'm curious along that line. When I first started experimenting with ChatGPT, I asked it something about my old company, which is like 20 years out of existence now, and it didn't know anything about it. So I started putting stuff in it and telling it about it, and I'm thinking, well, this would be great. If somebody wants to research it, they'll find it. Well, I didn't keep it because I couldn't find it later either. So I'm wondering if I had done that with ChatGPT-4, does it retain that type of information?
Really good point. Okay, so you're right in that we can't train the existing models by putting data in, like you're saying.
Okay.
One of the reasons is there's a technical limitation. They essentially don't update the knowledge of these models because it's so expensive. It can be tens of millions, even close to 100 to train these things. And so that's a technical limitation. There is a feature called custom instructions where you can put into your custom instructions in ChatGPT who you are, what your company does, those sorts of things. It puts it in there and that will follow you across conversations. So if you just need it for yourself, that's an incredibly valuable feature. But is there a way to kind of train the existing model? Not really, outside of just including it in your custom instructions. It would be really interesting if you could, but the truth is we just don't know how OpenAI or any of the model companies are going to train with this new data that they get from users. Are they going to train based on the information that we put in, or are they going to train just on the outline of the form, essentially, of what we put in? And we just don't know. So it's a great point.
So another thing that I've discovered is that, well, I guess the question is around limitations of AI or ChatGPT in particular, where I have asked it, I get frustrated using Excel trying to figure something out. So I'll ask it how to do something. And I find out it's very good at that and better than the help in Excel. However, if I ask it for the answer, it doesn't know how to use Excel, even though it can tell me, because it'll come back with an answer that's obviously not correct. And then when I challenge it on that, then it gives me a very polished apology of how it made a mistake, and it'll give me another answer, and that one's not right either. So how do you know when you're getting accurate information and you're not?
Well said. Okay, so this is touching on a lot of great points. And I'm not sure if you have the pro version of ChatGPT or not, but if you don't, I kind of highly recommend it to anybody out there. When you do get the pro version, you do get access to a tool called Advanced Data Analysis. So it's a tool that you get to from GPT-4. It's sort of a drop down. You select Advanced Data Analysis. Now, the caveat here is you have to have training on, which you want to consider what information you're putting in there. But when using that, you can upload a spreadsheet and ask it to perform operations on the Excel spreadsheet. So it can, through advanced data analysis, actually take action on your spreadsheets. It can even create them for you. It can move data from here to a PowerPoint or to a Word document. It can generate images and make them downloadable. So advanced data analysis gets pretty incredible. Now, to your point, which is 100% valid, sometimes the AI will generate information that is just not true, right? It's just totally false. And it's hard to detect when that's the case. It's hard to determine when it's false. And what that is called a hallucination. That is the actual industry term for it. It's where and it's not so unlike the human, right? It's where the AI will essentially get maybe a good chunk of it right, but they'll get a few things wrong. Now, the challenge here is that the AI is not able to recognize when it hallucinates. And there's this phenomenon that the AI hallucinations can start to snowball. So if it started to hallucinate an answer in Excel, like the example you gave, it is possible that it just continues that hallucination so that it gets worse and worse and worse. And this is really counterintuitive, but the thing you want to do is not continue the conversation, not try to build off of it, but you can use a feature where you can edit your existing prompt. Or you could start an entirely new conversation. So I would go back to the point where it does hallucinate and then edit your prompt and make it so that you ask it in a different way where it's not going to hallucinate. And it's hard to know how to ask it. So your question of how do I verify whether it's correct or not? There's no good way other than using a search engine and just verifying, validating, or just trying it out if it's something like Excel and you can see that it's right or wrong. This is one of the big challenges with large language models with AI, that we can't yet validate that what they're saying is true. And the particularly tricky part is that what they say is almost always plausible. It looks like it could be correct, but it's not. And so again, maybe not so unlike a human, but it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, and if Brant, if you're hallucinating while using ChatGPT and it's hallucinating, there's a problem.
That could very well be the case. So we talk about ChatGPT, and people are starting to use that almost synonymously with AI, and I know that's just one form. What other and people talk about AI and how they're afraid of it, and I'm thinking, well, when I get in my car and I use my navigation system and it tells me there's a traffic jam ahead, I'm thinking isn't that a form of AI?
I imagine so. So, with the traffic pattern detection and everything, they're using machine learning to analyze data and to make predictions, right? So yes, that is absolutely a form of AI. And, when we talk about other forms, again, AI has been around for a long time, particularly machine learning, making predictions based on data, categorizing data, those sorts of things. But what we're seeing now is the ability to interact with data through natural language. And that's really the power of a large language model, which ChatGPT uses underneath the hood, a model called GPT 3.5, GPT-4. Those are large language models. Now, to your point, kind of what else is out there? Well, there's Anthropic is a company that makes a model called Claude. And Claude is, the equivalent of a ChatGPT. It's a large language model. It's a chatbot. Amazon just last week, I believe, put a $4 billion investment into them, which is pretty incredible. So I think we can expect more coming out of them. People sometimes enjoy it because it's a little more personable. It's better at summarizing, pretty good. Then there's Google's Bard, if you're familiar with that. The thing that Google's Bard offers Bard is what's called always online, meaning that it has access to the latest information, whereas ChatGPT only has information up to September 2021 or January 2022. And so why wouldn't I always recommend Bard? Well, Bard hallucinates maybe more than any of the other models, or at least more than ChatGPT. And so you want to be careful with that. Google did recently add a button where you can kind of Google it right within Bard and see if it's true. But I've seen folks have challenges with that as well. There's another one from a company called Inflection, I believe, called Pi.
Before you go to that, so is Bard, I know that on Chrome, when I search on Chrome, do a Google search on Chrome, there's a artificial intelligence right at the top, and says I can click on that if I want to, and I have found that helpful. Is that the same as Bard?
Really good question. So, like you said, those sort of AI generated answers right at the top, incredibly valuable. I believe that uses the same model that Bard uses. So just like ChatGPT uses 3.5 and 4 as their models, Bard uses a model called Palm 2. And I believe the AI generated thing at the top of Google searches is likely using Palm 2. I don't know that for sure, or at least off the top of my head. It's a really good point and a good question, because they're trying to compete with Bing, which is another option, right? If you're in the Edge browser, you can use Bing Chat. And this came out several months ago before Google put it out there, because Bing, Microsoft, put a $10 billion investment into OpenAI. So they have access to their models. So Bing honestly is, I never thought I would say this, but it is a great search engine when you tie it to AI. It does some amazing things, honestly. And in my opinion, it can still be a bit ahead of Google when it comes to AI responses. So a lot of options out there. There's Pi.
Yeah.
There's another one called Perplexity, which is kind of a search engine, but we're just overflowing with AI tools.
Yeah. Well, we could talk forever about this. I mean, this is a great subject. I want to say, as we're hitting a wall here, thank you. I mean, this is incredible. Brant, great questions, and Ross, always excellent. For those of you listening here, get connected to both these gentlemen. Their contact information is around this episode, wherever you're watching this, because we stream this everywhere. And yeah, love to have you both back, track your progress. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for hosting this, Paul. I really appreciate it. Ross, pleasure to know you.
Thank you, Brant. So great to meet you and know you. And thank you, Paul, as always. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right.